All right, we'll go ahead and call this Planning Commission meeting to order this Wednesday, January 25th, 2023, the hour of 7 p.m. here at Tooele City Hall. First item on our agenda is our Pledge of Allegiance, so please rise and repeat with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Always thank you for that. Number 2 on our agenda here is our roll call. Commissioner Hammer? Here. Commissioner Proctor? Here. Commissioner Sloan? Here. Commissioner Robinson? Here. Commissioner Jensen? Here. Commissioner Goches?
Present.
We'll also recognize Commissioners Dunn and Newell in the back, staff members Agard and Bolzer, and council members Hanson and Manzione. All right, third item on our agenda here is a public hearing and recommendation on a land use map amendment request by Craig Mills to reassign the land use designation for approximately 97 acres located at approximately 1825 South 11th Avenue from regional commercial to industrial. Mr. Agard.
Thank you, Commissioners. So the subject property being considered with this application is the one that is highlighted in red. It is at the very southern tip of Tooele City before you head into unincorporated Tooele County. You'll notice that the Tooele County Jail is located on the lower right side of the property. And the boundary of the city pretty much follows that entire little peninsula there. So this is the zoning map of the property. It's currently zoned R1 residential, which is a rural residential zone requiring 1 acre lots per each dwelling unit. We have some OS open space to the north, and then some R17. And then, as I mentioned, all the surrounding properties are located in either unincorporated Tooele County or in the Tooele Army Depot. The application tonight requests an amendment to the land use map of the land use element of the Tooele City General Plan. The current designation is RC Regional Commercial, which is a land use designation that encourages or requires the Regional Commercial Zoning District or the RD Research and Development Zoning District. The applicant is requesting that the land use map be changed to industrial. The industrial land use map designation is basically the industrial zoning district. Their reasoning for this request is threefold. They wish to expand an existing RV park that is on the site that existed prior to Tooele even annexing this property. So it's an older RV park and is considered legally non-conforming in its current situation. They'd like to expand that. They would also like to consider putting some storage units in the property, some vehicle storage, and then possibly a light industrial park. So they have some plans for the entire 97 acres, not just the RV park. But in order to accomplish that, they need the industrial zoning district, which would approve all of those uses that I just mentioned. So that's the nature of the application. That's why they're here before the Planning Commission today. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them for you. This is a public hearing. It was noticed as required, and I did not receive any written comments concerning this application. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the Planning Commission.
All right, let's bring this back to the Commission for any questions for staff.
I have one question.
Commissioner Proctor.
Wasn't this presented to the City Council in a work meeting back in December?
I believe it was, correct, Jim?
And it was a discussion item. That's okay. I just wanted to, I was there.
Yes,
Commissioner
Commissioner Goches?
I'd like to ask a question. Regarding this application, is that they are asking to rezone to a AAA trailer park. They want to expand the trailer park that's there. They have vehicle storage and then a light industrial park. Could you please explain the difference between our light industrial and industrial zoning?
It all comes down to the type of uses that are permitted in each zoning district. The light industrial is oriented towards basically lighter uses that don't generate a lot of impacts such as noise, glare, pollution, vibration, things of that nature. The industrial zone is a heavier zone. It allows heavier uses. It also allows a wider range of uses. So it just comes down to the intensity of the industrial uses that are allowed in the zoning districts. The industrial is a lot more intense.
Are they requesting light industrial?
No, industrial. Well, the land use map is for industrial, and if that were to be improved, the only zoning district that they could ask for would be the industrial zone.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? All right, this does require a public hearing. Is the applicant here tonight? Okay, we'll hold you off till the end after the public hearing. Not a lot of people here, so we'll see what happens. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing for anybody else that would like to speak to this item. All right, seeing no one would approach, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Would the applicant like to address the commission on any aspects in this? Yes. Yeah, come on up and state your name for the record, please, and then we'll have you write your name as well.
Yeah, it's Craig Mills. I'm the applicant. One of the things on the expansion of the trailer park itself, we had a general contractor, before I got involved, was helping put that together. And we've got 10 pads that are there already that we have not been using, because they were not permitted at the time. So we've been staying off of there. So when we talk about the expansion, we currently have 17 spots out there. We're looking to be able to use the 10 that were put in there. And that's the extent of the expansion on the trailer park itself. Another thing I know that is a big concern out there is the water. And we are currently using water from the depot. We buy our water from them. We have a contract with them that we can use water up until the point where they need more water and they can't afford to give it to us or sell it to us. The other thing is that if water becomes available, that they will turn off their supply to us, and we need to tap into whatever that utility becomes. We've done that with the power already. We're no longer on depot power. But one of the things I need to bring up is that during the inquiry with the depot, they learned that there is a 12-inch line going out to the jail, and they believe that to be something that I can tap into at this time. And we got a notice. I haven't received the notice yet, but Andrew received a notice that they would be cutting off our water eventually. So because of that understanding, they believe that that water is available to us. So that's something that we're going to have to work out. Another reason we'd like to go to the industrial is that we believe that there's a lot less water to be used in that area under an industrial classification than if we leave it with the rural residential, because they're going to use up a lot more water than a self-storage unit would. So, any comments for me?
Yeah, does this commission have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Goches?
I'd like to ask a few questions. You know, that it's kind of open-ended, why you need to change that to the light industrial because of the water use. You know, we need to consider things that are deleterious to the health and welfare of the public. And with that type of a land use, then, you know, there could be uses that might impact the public. But, you know, you didn't really speak to that. You spoke to the trailer park issue. And less water, I'm more concerned with the health and safety for our residents.
Okay, so of the plans that we have, we're looking at self-storage as a possible use. We're looking at more of I don't know what the actual name for it is, but it would be kind of like a mechanic strip mall where we can have mechanics come in and work on vehicles, or a wood shop, or a machine shop type stuff. We're not looking for anything big, not looking for anything that would involve chemical usage other than maybe oil, gasoline, turpentine, that kind of stuff, but nothing that should actually affect public safety that you don't already have downtown. Did I Does that speak to that?
Yes, that answered my question, and really, I wondered if it was going to be used for industrial purposes, because we already have an industrial depot, and so we're expanding to open, to, and
That's a
we're
great
closer to residents there, although, our industrial depot does have residential, but, so, allowing that type of use really opens up some other concerns, for residents. So my concern is for our residents.
Yeah, the reason that we went with the industrial was to what Andrew spoke to, was it was just the things that we were looking to do fall under that classification. Yes, there are other things in that classification, but many of those they still require permitting and conditional uses, so you'd still have control over what would go into that property.
Thank you.
Does that help?
It does.
Okay.
Any other questions from the commission? All right, Mr. Mills, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I did forget that I am Chairman Hamilton and that I am here also. I'm sure you got that. All right, we'll bring this back to the commission for any other further questions or comments for staff. Seeing Mr. Bolzer walk up to the mic, he's probably got something to address for us before we move on.
I'd like to just briefly address a couple of things the applicant brought up. First of all, the 12-inch water line, there is a 12-inch water line in Main Street, in Highway 36. It's along the shoulder. That line was installed solely for the purpose of the jail.
Yeah.
It is a single feed line, and the city's established policy at the time of putting that line in was that no uses would attach to it other than the jail unless they were looped. So any development looking to tap into that 12-inch line would have to provide a second point of connection to a separate water line that provides looping both to the jail and to themselves. So he's correct, there is a 12-inch water line, but it is not as simple as simply tapping into that line. The second thing I wanted to mention is the applicant mentioned having some controls over permitting and conditional uses. I want you to understand that that control is very limited. Anything that is allowed in the zone will happen if that is the zoning, will have to be allowed to happen. Whether it's their intent today or not, if it is allowed in the zone, it could be allowed. In fact, the city would be in a position of requiring it to be allowed, so long as it's a permissible use. So one of the things that the commission will want to consider, if you are, as a part of your recommendation to the council, is for approval, is if there are uses that do not cause you concern and uses that do, that recommendation provide what those are and a recommendation as to how to address them as far as which uses you would want to see limited as a part of a decision to rezone, or in this case, adjust the land use first, and which you would be comfortable doing.
Okay.
I don't know if this is for Jim or for who in the staff needs to deal with this one. Just a quick question. The proposed uses that the applicant mentioned, a couple of them specifically, the storage, the RV park, do those require an industrial use? I don't have the table in front of me, but.
Self-storage, I believe, requires an industrial designation. I believe there's a couple of different zones that permit it, or at least it's permissible. And the use he's talking about of a mechanic shop, that's effectively a flex space, which for what he's talking about, the uses that he mentioned would fall under a mixture of commercial and industrial intensities. So I think it's something that would require an industrial designation of some type. It's just a matter of which one would accommodate the full breadth of what he's identified.
Thank you.
All right, any other further questions for the commission, for staff?
Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, please.
I wasn't in attendance at the city council meeting in December where this was discussed. Is there anything that they talked about that we need to know about, or what their concerns were? Can I ask that here?
Just not that they were in favor, they were not in favor. Theirs was mostly public safety issues, fire and access, and also the water access.
Okay, water and fire. the use itself, okay. All right. Good discussion. Any other questions or comments?
Just, I think the only comment that I would have is I always get concerned, not necessarily, I take the applicant at face value as far as what his intent is for the property. I always get concerned over what can happen versus what we think will happen. And so, in addition to what was just mentioned at the city council, I've got issues about what could happen there that we would not have the ability to, the stuff that we might not want to be in there.
Yeah, intent and 50 years down the road are two different things, so.
Yep.
Good comment there. All right. With that having been said, I'll entertain a motion from the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I move we forward a negative recommendation to the City Council for the AA Trailer Park Land Use Map Amendment request by Craig Mills for the purpose of reassigning 97.4 acres located approximately 1825 South 11th Avenue to the industrial land use designation, application number P22-1336, based on the findings listed in the staff report, but specifically deleterious possible effects that we can't foresee at this particular one. That's very vague, and Roger would hate it, but the reality is there's so many that we can't list here. And again, I take the applicant at face value, what he wants to do with it, but that doesn't clear us of the responsibility to have to see what can happen there.
Okay. I have a negative recommendation motion from Commissioner Sloan. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And a second from Commissioner Goches. Go ahead and take this to a vote. Commissioner Hammer?
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloan?
Aye.
Commissioner Robinson?
Aye.
Commissioner Jensen?
No.
Commissioner Goches?
Aye.
And I am Chairman Hamilton. I also vote aye. This one passes with a positive or a negative recommendation towards the City Council, 6-1. This goes up to City Council, Mr. Mills, so it's not dead and done here. So, thank you, sir.
Just a recommendation.
Just a recommendation from us.
I know you've already, the campground trailer park, there's only one other.
We'll need you to make.
Yeah,
Face
you'll have to
the
come up here.
microphone, please.
There's only one other classification that would be allowed to include that campground, and that would be industrial service. And that industrial service would cover everything except for vehicle storage.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
And our council members here heard that as well, so they'll take note of it.
And
Thank you,
just
Mr. Mills.
Before you move on, just
Yes,
for the
please.
public's awareness, until the agendas are finalized, it's always projected, but at this point, we're projecting for the council to see this at their meeting next week.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bolzer. I appreciate that. Moves us on to number 4 on our agenda is a public hearing and a recommendation on a draft ordinance 2023-03, an ordinance of Tooele City amending Tooele City Code Chapter 7-16, Table 1, tables of uses to remove the group home use. Mr. Bolzer.
Thank you. I am actually pinch hitting for Mr. Baker tonight on this one. He is traveling, and so we're hoping he's safe while we're taking care of some business here. So, as the commission will recall, not too long ago, I believe it was in December, there was an ordinance that came before you that addressed residential facilities for persons with a disability and some corrections to Chapter 715 of the City Code that deals specifically with that use. And that was largely to bring it in alignment with state law and what some other cities are doing that frankly was a little bit better than the way we had on the books, which was dated. It was a little bit old and antiquated. So we wanted to update that so that we were not only following the law, but also establishing a use that could be implemented in an appropriate manner. What we've discovered, well, we anticipated it, but what we discovered is now that that ordinance is in place, it creates a conflict with our existing land use designation of group homes. So I believe it came to the Planning Commission as well, and then to the council to establish a temporary ordinance. The layman may refer to that as a moratorium, that put a halt on the use of the group homes use. The intent was simply to put that in place so that we can come back and bring this proposal to you to now remove the group home use from the table, thereby eliminating the conflict. That is the sole nature of this application, is to now remove that use and remove the conflict. With that, I'd be happy to answer questions you may have.
All right, let's bring this back to the commission for any questions for Mr. Bolzer. Hearing none, this does require a public hearing, so I'll go ahead and open the public hearing for this particular item on our agenda tonight. Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and move this back to the commission for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move we forward a positive recommendation on draft ordinance 2023-03.
I got a positive recommendation from Commissioner Robinson. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And a second from Commissioner Jensen. Commissioner Hammer?
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloan?
Aye.
Commissioner Robinson?
Aye.
Commissioner Jensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Goches?
Aye.
And I'm Chairman Hamilton. I also vote aye. This one passes 7-0. I was about to say Commissioner Weston.
It's okay. I did that once.
Number 5 on our agenda is also a public hearing and a recommendation on a draft ordinance 2023-04, an ordinance of the Tooele City Council making technical revisions to the amended 2022 moderate income housing element of the Tooele City General Plan. Mr. Bolzer.
Thank you. As the commission is well aware, in the last legislative session, which is just now a year old, as they're back in session, the legislature adopted a bill, I believe it was 462, House Bill 462, that made requirements for cities to make amendments to their general plan, specifically the moderate income housing element of those general plans. The intent was to build upon legislation passed in prior sessions that address specific strategies that different cities would undertake. And the list of those strategies, I believe there's 26 in the state code of potential strategies that cities could take and include in their general plans to encourage various implementations of moderate income housing. Keyword being encourage. With House Bill 462, one of the things that had to take place was what appeared to be some fairly straightforward amendments and some additional discussion in our general plan regarding just how we do those implementations. And those updates were required to be submitted to the state for review by October 1st. In September, specifically the 21st of September, the City Council adopted our updated moderate income housing plan following your recommendation a week earlier, and it was submitted to the state. We'll take our lumps the same as everyone else. We found ourselves in the bulk of cities around the state that found themselves receiving a notice of noncompliance. That was included as a part of your ordinance. We've heard numbers as much as 75% of cities in the state received one of those notices. So we're in good company, but at the same time, we take our lumps and we move on and update those things and get it taken care of. That's exactly what we're doing this evening. From the date of that notice, which was the 18th of November, we have 90 days to update the plan into compliance and resubmit to the state. That gives us until February 16th, which is the day after the next, not the next council meeting, but the council meeting after that. In the last 60 days or so, 75 days or so, we've been working closely with the state to make sure that what the updates that we were doing were meeting the intent of what they identified as deficiencies in our plan. Very specifically, we'd made amendments, sent it in. They were very good to review those amendments and give it back to us with additional comments, and then we made those revisions as well. The entirety of the revisions in our moderate income housing plan is specifically that section of the 9 strategies that we have. Of course, only 3 are required by the state. We have 9. So once again, we're above and beyond, but we needed to document it and put in some steps that we would take to ensure that it's not just lip service, that we're actually doing those things. So we've done that. It's now provided to you for your review. Then the council will review it following your recommendation. And our sole intent is to simply bring our moderate income housing plan into conformance with the requirements of the state code and have it resubmitted to the state, and then see what the legislature wants to do with it this year, since it's already a topic up on the Hill. So nonetheless, we're gonna do what we're asked of us. So
Back another one.
with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, let's bring this back to the commission for any questions for Mr. Bolzer. Pretty straightforward, I guess, huh? Hopefully you don't have to change it again in 90 days.
We shouldn't, but it'll all depend on the legislature. I should say that the Department of Workforce Services at the state was been entrusted to do these reviews has a massive job to do, and they've been very good to work with under some trying circumstances on their end, dealing with a lot of communities in this state that had to do these updates and reviewing all their plans. So we're very appreciative of their efforts.
That's good to hear. Always good to hear. All right, any other questions from the commission?
I'd like to ask Mr. Bolzer
Commissioner
a question.
Goches?
Of the 9 strategies that we had incorporated already, what were the specific changes that were entered?
There were specific changes. Are you talking the ones that we did or the ones the states requested?
Yeah, what we have submitted this, or have we submitted it?
We have not submitted it. It has to be
We
adopted
have
first.
until, it has to be
Yep, it
adopted
has
and
to be
then
adopted
submitted on the
first.
16th. What are those proposed to be?
So what you're seeing in your packet is the final proposal for consideration and hopeful adoption. There were 2 deficiencies identified by the state that played into all 9 strategies. One was a requirement that each of the strategies that we outlined, that it was stated verbatim from the state code which strategy we were using. We used more common language so that it was a little more understandable, but they requested that it be verbatim language of which specific strategy with a citation to the state code. The other, which was a little more in-depth in terms of what we added into the plan, was a further discussion that included some specific benchmarks and some specific reporting internally that we would be doing to ensure and follow up on each of those strategies and make sure that we're not simply putting it on the books as a part of the plan and then just knowing it's there is good enough, but actually following up on it and making sure that we are following what we've intended to do and stated what we've intended to do. So that's kind of a simplistic approach to it, but it encompassed a number of paragraphs in each strategy, so it's kind of a simplistic response to what you've asked for. But those were the 2 topics that were amended for each of the 9 strategies.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, this one also does require a public hearing, so I'll go ahead and open that public hearing now. Seeing the rush of people run up to want to speak to this, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring this back to the commission for further action.
Mr. Chair, I move we forward a positive recommendation on draft ordinance 2023-04.
All right, I got a motion from Commissioner Robinson for a positive recommendation and a second from Commissioner Sloan. Commissioner Hammer?
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloan? Aye. Commissioner Robinson?
Aye.
Commissioner Jensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Goches?
Aye.
And I am Chairman Hamilton. I also vote aye. That one passes 7-0. Moves us on to number 6 on our agenda is our city council reports.
Thank you. I will express appreciation to Jim for that last item. I actually went to a conference soon after that law was changed, and the person presenting specified before any of them were even due that they expected everyone to fail. So I think it was one of those laws that was kind of set up that way. So
We failed
appreciate
first,
his
though.
work
we
on
failed
that.
way ahead of everybody else.
Yeah.
Well done.
Other than that, I looked through our meeting was super short. We didn't start till 6:30 for even our work agenda. So I really don't have anything to present. So I can make something up, or if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I'm just happy to be here.
That's always good. Well, while you're there, does anybody have any questions for
Don't make it super hard.
So many.
Council Member Manziel? None?
I have a comment.
Yeah,
Don't mind.
please.
Marisa and I attended a meeting with the Chamber of Commerce, and it was presented by Intercap Lending by Josh Romney. I found it to be really interesting. I didn't know if you wanted to share anything with the group.
Sure, it was really interesting. It was a housing outlook for Utah and kind of Tooele area. Very informative, just talked about interest rates, kind of the economics of the housing crisis that we're in, I guess, and that they're even, interest rates are continuing to go up. Eventually they'll come down, but really home prices in Tooele area are not expected to fall a lot just because there's still a shortage even at that point. So, but the future is bright for Tooele, and most people in the room felt like Tooele was still a hot market and a great place to build and buy and live, which I agree with. It's a great place to be. And it's not a bad time to buy a house, even though interest rates have gone up, prices have come down a bit. And if you can hold on for the long term, still going to be a good outlook, positive outlook. So, of course, we all know the limiting factor will eventually be water. So manage growth until then. Yeah.
Do what we can, yeah. We appreciate all your efforts. That's good. It was a short meeting, though.
Yeah.
Mr. Bolzer? Yeah, I'd like to bring up one item from the council meeting and express my appreciation to the council members. That is a very subtle change that they've made, but they unanimously approved the mayor's recommendation to advance Commissioner Goches to a full member from being an alternate, and then also bring Commissioner Newell on board as an alternate. He's been to your meetings and participated, but now he's doing it from your own side of the table. So I'd like to welcome them both and say thank you to the council for that vote of support.
Thanks, Jim.
Yes, for sure. Keeping us fully staffed is awesome. We appreciate that.
Yep, that's the goal.
I never want to be short. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, this brings us to number 7 on our agenda is a review and approval of Planning Commission minutes for the meeting held on January 11th, 2023. Are there any additions, corrections, or anything needs to be sent? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll motion that we approve the minutes.
Motion to approve from Commissioner Proctor. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second from Commissioner Hammer. Commissioner Hammer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor? Aye. Commissioner Sloan?
Aye.
Commissioner Robinson?
Aye.
Commissioner Jensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Goches?
Aye.
And I am Chairman Hamilton. I also vote aye. Number 8 on our agenda, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Before you do that,
Yes,
just
please.
a quick reminder, your online training for this month, there's actually 2, one for us and one for our city recorder. Open and public meetings training is required once a year. She sent that out to you. I believe there's 2 of you. I'm still waiting on certificates for that one. And then the training from the Planning Commission specifically on general powers and duties, your yearly required training there. I believe I'm waiting on 4 of you for that one. So just remember to log in and get those done. If you need those links again, let me know. We'll shoot them to you. And then at the end of each of those 2 trainings, there's a little button you can click on to print a certificate. Just get us that certificate, and unless you're Commissioner Sloan, you can't find the button. But there is a button that you can get a certificate. Just send us that certificate as a PDF, or if you want to print it and bring it in, that's fine. But that is the record for your completion of those trainings. So just get those to us and we'll get you logged in.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you for the reminder. All right, now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.